My parents refused to pay for my college while funding my sister. My aunt helped me succeed. Now they want money but I refuse. Hello Reddit. My folks were always playing favorites. So I responded, nah, screw them. I built my own life and moved on. But those folks weren't done yet. Before we get into it, let me start at the beginning. I am a 27-year-old male son with a 29-year-old sister. In our household, she was the golden child and I was the background noise. Some individuals believe that partiality in families is just a matter of one child receiving more attention or praise. Nope. In my situation, there was obvious favoritism that everyone could see if they looked closely enough. My parents fought really hard to keep it hidden from the outer world, relatives, grandparents, and neighbors. They treated us like we were a wonderful little family. My mother was particularly adept at putting on a phony smile. When the company arrived, I suddenly appeared. She'd inquire, "How's school going?" Or, "Show grandma your drawings." But as soon as the door closed, I was back in second place. Birthdays were the most noticeable. My sister's birthdays were always a big deal. Balloons, banners, elaborate cakes, heaps of gifts, and an entire class invited. Mine? A last-minute grocery store cake, possibly a card, and a few relatives. I once asked my sister, "Why don't I get balloons and throw parties like you?" She smirked, "Because no one cares about your boring little birthday. Mine's enjoyable. Yours would be embarrassing." Competitions and schoolwork were worse. I had talent and my teachers encouraged me to enter contests. But my parents forbid it. At 14, I was invited to regionals and my teacher predicted I would win. My parents sat me down and said, "It wouldn't be fair to your sister if you won something she couldn't." My sister laughed, "Please, like anyone wants to see you. If you embarrass yourself, do not bring the family name down with you." Meanwhile, she seized every opportunity. Dance lessons, singing, and art seminars. When I begged to take a class I liked, my father chuckled and said, "We don't waste money on things you'll never be good at." I was 12 years old. Sometimes I believed I was overreacting. But my aunt noticed. She'd give me extra things for my birthday, ask whether I was fine, and indicate that I didn't have to remain forever. I worked hard in school, got good marks, good teachers, and was admitted into one of the best programs in the area. For the first time in my life, I was proud. I showed my folks, expecting to receive compliments. My mother's face became flat, and my father moaned. He added, "That's nice, but we're not paying for it." I chuckled, assuming he was joking. But he replied, "We already have your sister in college. We're not pushing ourselves simply because you want to go somewhere fancier." "Fancier?" I said. "This is not fancy. It's an opportunity. It's my future." My mother interjected, "It wouldn't be fair to your sister. Imagine how she might react if you attended a higher-ranked school. We need to think about both of you." I snapped. "Every time I worked on something you shut it off. No competitions, no interests, and now this. You don't want me to overshadow her." My father snapped, "That's enough. Do you think we are made of money? Do you think the world revolves around you?" And for the first time, they refused to deny it. I went to my aunt and explained everything. She was stunned. Then her expression hardened. "Pack your belongings. You're moving in with me." She promised to pay for everything, including tuition and housing. "You deserve a future. If they don't give it to you, I will." But she did not stop there. The following day, she stormed into my parents' house. "How dare you? You're jeopardizing your own child's future because of your skewed view of fairness." My mother snapped, "This is none of your business. We are the parents. We decide what is fair." "Fair?" My aunt almost laughed, but it came out bitter and furious. "You think penalizing one child for being successful is fair? What is wrong with you?" My father rushed in, his voice rising. "Don't you come into our home and tell us how to raise our kids? We have another daughter to think about. And she is fine." My aunt shot back. "She is getting everything handed to her, and you are clipping his wings because you are afraid she will feel tiny." My mom's cheeks turned red. "You don't comprehend how much strain we're under. We cannot afford to make both of them pleased." "No, you mean you picked your favorite and dismissed the others." My aunt spoke as she approached. "He earned it, yet you're too proud or petty to help him." "Get out," my father said, his voice booming. "No," she said gently but seriously. "He is departing with me. And one day, when you wonder why he hasn't returned, recall this moment. Remember who walked away from him first." The room became still. My parents did not say anything else, but their silence spoke volumes. Then my mother appeared in the doorway as I was quietly packing my luggage, folding each shirt as if I wasn't shaking. "You'll regret it," she added again, her tone harsh and almost gleeful. "You'll crawl back when she's weary of you." My father did not even look up from his chair. I just sat there pretending I wasn't in the room, as if ignoring me would make me disappear. My sister leaned against the wall, arms crossed, a sneer on her face, as if she had already won. Then the front door opened. My aunt walked in. She didn't bother saying hi. "Is he ready?" she said, her tone firm. My mother spun around. "You're not taking him anywhere. He's our son." "No," my aunt responded, taking a step closer. "He's a kid you've been holding back for years, and now you're mad because someone finally noticed." My father stood, finally breaking his silence. "You do not come into my home and undermine me. We've reared our children well. Fine." My aunt's voice raised. "Fine if you truly support them. Fine is when you do not reprimand one child because the other is unable to keep up. You're more concerned about your reputation than his future." My mother's face went red. "You don't comprehend how much strain we're under." "Stop," my aunt snapped. "You've had years to correct it. Instead, you doubled down on favoritism while calling it fair. So, guess what? He is going. And one day, when he doesn't return your calls, remember this." The meeting was tight, filled with statements that no one could take back. My parents scowled. My sister rolled her eyes, but no one tried to stop me. I did not even say goodbye. I simply picked up my luggage, went out the door, and for the first time felt liberated. My parents were outraged because it made them appear awful in front of their family. However, they never informed anyone the truth. So when I packed up and moved to my aunt's house unexpectedly, they had to explain why, which they despised. Living with my aunt was a complete 180. She didn't just pay for my tuition, she also provided me with a house where I wasn't constantly reminded that I was in second place. She supported me, praised my accomplishments, and reminded me that I was important, even on difficult days. I assured her I'd pay her back when I could, and she answered, "Don't worry about that right now, son. Just focus on your future." All I could do was grin at her. Then I worked part-time jobs to supplement my own income because I refused to rely on my aunt for everything. She never asked for reimbursement, but I wanted to show that I was serious. I shelved books in the library before class, tutored in the afternoons, and spent the whole weekend working in retail. Most nights, I arrived home weary, still facing hours of assignments. Every dollar was spent on food, books, and bus tickets, with some meals skipped to stretch the budget. It wasn't easy, but I wasn't going to waste the opportunity she had given me. I also made a pledge to myself that day. If my parents ever asked me for aid again, I would remember this moment. I'd remember how they looked me in the eyes and said, "We're not paying for your future because it wouldn't be fair to your sister." I'd never forget that. Moving in with my aunt seemed like entering another universe. It was simply different. I was simply handled as if I were a normal person. She did not make a big issue about it. She did not baby me, but she did respect me. If I did anything well, she said, "Good job." If I made a mistake, she didn't get upset. She just helped me fix it. And Mom supported my college decision from the start. She even accompanied me to orientation, asking concerns about housing and ensuring I had all I needed. In the meantime, my actual parents were dealing with the aftermath. They informed my grandparents that I moved in with my aunt since it was closer to college and more convenient. They made it appear as if it was a shared decision rather than their refusal to pay for my future. But I didn't bother confronting them publicly. I basically concentrated on school. I had space to reflect on myself. I worked hard. I studied. I was actually doing fine. Every minor accomplishment felt significant to me. Not for gloating, but because it was mine. Nobody could take it away. Nobody could say, "Don't do that. It'll upset your sister." It was all mine. And speaking of my sister, she was not doing well. My grandparents would give me brief updates from time to time. She had graduated from her school, but instead of seeking work in her industry, she decided she wanted to be her own boss, which entailed creating odd enterprises with no plans. It began with a little business, then moved on to an internet venture, and then to another project. Every one of them failed. And my folks always bailed her out. Whenever anybody recommended she obtain a regular job, she'd roll her eyes and remark, "Why should I waste time making coffee for strangers when I can be an entrepreneur?" And when her businesses failed, she always had an explanation. "The market just isn't ready for my idea. If Mom and Dad had given me more funding, it would have worked." It was a joke. She never contemplated taking a normal job. She considered that beneath her. She aspired to achieve success without putting in the effort. My parents, as always, allowed it to happen. She'd come up with a new company plan, and instead of urging her to be realistic, they would invest more money in it. Then it would crash, and they would look astonished. Rinse, repeat. By the time I graduated, I had more employment experience on my CV than my older sister, and when I got my first real job, it seemed like I'd finally passed that invisible border. I wasn't simply surviving anymore. I stood on my own 2 feet. After a few years, I had saved enough for a down payment on a house. Nothing unusual, but it was mine. I'll never forget the day I signed the paperwork. My aunt came with me and sobbed. Not big dramatic tears, just a proud, quiet moment. She said, "You did this all by yourself." Throughout that period, my parents pretended everything was fine. At family gatherings, they'd discuss how well both of their children were doing. They'd brag about my sister's business activities as if she were a mogul. They rarely mentioned me, except in vague terms like, "Oh yes, he's working now, he's fine." They never revealed I had lived with my aunt for years. They never admitted that they didn't support me through college. But here's the thing, I didn't care anymore. I had an aunt. I had grandparents, and it was enough. They showed up for me, the rest was only noise. I also reimbursed my aunt for every penny she spent on my education expenses. It took some time, but I made sure to complete it. She attempted to refuse at first, but I insisted. I told her it was vital to me not only financially, but also to prove to myself that I could stand on my own 2 feet. And as I was establishing my life, my parents were getting deeper into debt. My sister's failures piled up, and instead of facing reality, they took out a loan to keep throwing money at her. According to what I learned later, they even began borrowing from other relatives. They were so determined to keep the golden child dream alive that they had no idea they were sinking themselves. Moving home with my aunt marked a watershed moment in my life. It wasn't simple, but it was free. It was the first time I had the opportunity to craft my own story rather than being cast as the shadow. I'd been in my position for a few years when this happened. Things remained stable, I was paying my bills, I owned my home, and life seemed terrific. For once in my life, I wasn't concerned with what my parents thought. I was not second-guessing every decision I made. I was just living. And then, 2 months ago, I received a promotion that altered everything. This wasn't a small, "we'll give you an extra $1 an hour" deal. It was a proper promotion with a large raise. The kind of raise that makes you sit there staring at the HR email, thinking, wait, is this real? Did they actually mean to send this to me? I'd also worked my ass hard for it. Late nights, extra tasks, going above and above when nobody asked, and it all paid off. The first people I wanted to inform were my aunt and grandparents. They had been my biggest supporters since the beginning, people who believed in me even while my own parents did not. So I called them up and shared the good news. My aunt cried on the phone. My grandmother said she always knew I'd do well. My grandfather said I deserved it and he was proud of me. That call meant more than just the promotion itself. To celebrate, I decided to treat them to supper. Not just any meal, but somewhere posh. The dinner itself was incredible. We laughed, ate, and discussed all of our struggles to get there. My aunt continued telling me, "See, I told you it would all work out." She was the type of person who always believed in me, even when I didn't believe in myself. My grandparents were shining. They told me stories of when I was a kid, and how they always regarded me as the silent achiever, even though my parents never recognized it. I felt as if my efforts had come full circle, and that I was no longer just surviving, but thriving. At the end of the night, my aunt took some photos of us at the table. Nothing extravagant, just a few joyful photos. Later, she shared them on Instagram. She wrote a lengthy caption about how proud she was, how she'd seen me fight and improve, and how now I could enjoy the benefits of my labor. I didn't think much of it at first. To me, it was simply a beautiful post from my aunt. But of course my sister follows her, which is how the whole problem began. She apparently freaked out when she saw images of us at the upscale restaurant. She sent me a message on Instagram. "Wow, must be nice flaunting money while your real family can't even keep the lights on." I stared at the message for a moment, attempting to comprehend its chutzpah. This was the first time she had communicated with me in years. Years. Not a, "Hey, congrats on the promotion." Not a, "How are you doing?" Not even a simple, "Hello." Just plain entitlement. She saw me doing well, yet her first thought was not to be happy for me. They demanded that I share it with them. I told the woman, "I worked for this. Nobody handed it to me." Her response was, "Spare me. You wouldn't even have a degree if Auntie hadn't rescued you. You think you're so special because you got lucky with a job." Then my parents joined in. They sent me a lengthy note about how they had made several sacrifices for me as I grew up, and how it was now my responsibility to support them as a son. They replied, "We took care of you. Now it's your turn to take care of us." I laughed. The more I thought about it, the angrier I became. Not because they asked, but because they had the audacity to demand it like I owed them. My sister doubled down. She sent me another message, accusing me of being selfish and forsaking my family. She said I owed her because all of her failed businesses were for the family, and I should be supporting her ambitions now that I had a consistent paycheck. She also stated, "If you really cared about family, you'd invest in me. We'd all gain if I blew up." I believed that was the end of it, but I subsequently saw her on the street. Of course, she couldn't simply stroll past. She needed to start something. She crossed her arms and sneered. "Okay, Mr. Big Promotion, it must feel fantastic to think you're superior than the rest of us." I held my voice steady. "I don't think I've improved. I just worked harder. There is a distinction. Please. If I had half of your chances, I'd already be running my own kingdom," she shot back. "Chances?" I raised an eyebrow. "You took advantage of every opportunity that presented itself. Do not blame me for your sloth. Laziness." She scoffed, her tone dripping with sarcasm. "I am an entrepreneur. I don't squander my life working at a desk." I smirked. "Entrepreneurs actually create something. You simply deplete wallets and call it vision. There is a distinction." She lifted her chin, attempting to project confidence. "You will regret shutting us off. When my next concept takes off, you'll be the one wishing to be in my shadow." I moved closer. "Number. The only thing I regret is giving you so much of my time. Enjoy your fantasy, but don't expect me to fund it ever." I turned and began walking away. "Behind me," she snapped, her voice rising. She yelled, "You'll regret this. You think you're better than me now, but you're nothing without us." "Nothing?" I didn't look back and continued going, leaving her shrieking at nothing. The arrogance made me stunned. This was the same sister who received everything on a silver platter while I was told to settle for scraps. And now she wanted me to fund her lifestyle as well. I later screenshotted everything and sent it to my aunt and grandparents. My aunt called me within minutes. Absolutely furious. I've never heard her this angry. She told me that while I knew they were selfish, this was a whole other level. She then called my parents personally. I'm not sure what she said because I wasn't on the line, but based on what I heard afterward, she ripped into them like never before. She lay out everything. How they refused to pay for my tuition. They constantly favored my sister. How they let me leave at 18 instead of helping me. She stated that they had no right to ask me for anything and should be humiliated for even attempting. Then came a bigger wave. The remainder of the family found out. When my aunt began talking, the story spread. My grandparents on my father's side called to ask what had happened. So I told them the whole truth. They were stunned. Apparently my parents had been asking them for money for years under the guise of aiding the children. My grandparents felt they were distributing the assistance between me and my sister. They were enraged when they discovered that all of money had gone to subsidize my sister's countless unsuccessful companies while I received nothing. They called my parents and abruptly cut off their financial support. They explained that if my sister wanted to be an adult, she needed to obtain a job and pay off her obligations like everyone else. No more handouts. I had no idea my grandparents had been giving them money before this. It blew my mind how much my parents had lied to maintain the golden child image. They pretended to everyone that they were equally supportive of both children, when in fact they were funneling everything into one while destroying the other. So here's the thing. The moment their tiny secret was revealed, their immaculate family image disintegrated. Relatives who used to adore my sister began to have second thoughts about my parents. People who believed my mother was a fantastic, selfless mother soon understood she had been playing favorites the entire time. My sister, unsurprisingly, blamed me. She sent off another message. I was airing dirty laundry and making the family angry. I suddenly became the villain because I refused to remain silent. Then she called. No, hello. She was screaming, "You've ruined everything. You owe us." Those businesses were for the family. I let her ramble for about a minute before saying, "Done." She became louder. Click. Blocked in the middle of a yell. The best sound I had heard in years. My parents changed tactics after that, but did not apologize. My phone lighted up every day with shame and wrath. You have ruined this family. You will regret shutting us off. Do you think you are better than us? You are nothing without us. They also dragged family members into it, telling anyone who would listen that I was ungrateful and harsh. When that did not elicit a response, they intensified. Angry voicemails, late-night calls, and even unwanted visits to my aunt's house. They tried everything: begging, threatening, gaslighting. One day it was, "We're your parents. You owe us." The next, "Fine, don't come crawling back when you fail." Then I did something for myself for once. I purchased a motorcycle, something I had desired since I was a child but had always been warned was irresponsible. I rode it around, hair blowing in the wind, music blasting through my helmet, not caring about their acceptance. My sister was living rent-free at my parents' house, mooching off them while they were drowning in debt, and I was meant to be envious. It was so delusional that it nearly stopped making me angry. What irritated me was her accusation that I was responsible for destroying their reputation. She said that the rest of the family was now condemning them because I aired dirty laundry. Like, no. People judged them because they learned the truth. The years of favoritism, the college issue, the way they elevated her while tearing me down. I did not cause any of that to happen. I've just stopped keeping their secret. That's when the begging began. My mother sent another message, essentially asking, "Please don't cut us off. We know we weren't perfect, but we're still your parents." My father wrote something about how we should stick together in difficult times. And the funniest part was that they tried to guilt-trip me by saying, "Think of your sister, she needs you." As if I hadn't spent my entire childhood being sacrificed, so she could feel like the center of the world. I did not respond to any of it. Not a single word. Instead, I blocked them. Phone, social media, and everything. I informed my maternal grandparents that I no longer wanted to receive updates about them. I didn't care what justification they used, what apology they made, or what sob story they told. I was finished. I can't put into words how satisfied I felt when I blocked them. It wasn't anger. It wasn't even vengeance in the dramatic sense. It was a sense of relief, as if I had finally closed a door that had been left open for far too long. In the meantime, the rest of the family had turned against them. My aunt was not giving up. Every time they tried to make a new reason, she shut them down. My father's parents refused to send them another cent. The girl who previously strolled into every family meeting like queen was now completely disregarded. Nobody inquired about her enterprises anymore. Nobody cared about her great ideas. They had learned the truth. My aunt subsequently told me that my mother wailed over the phone, unable to figure out where she had gone wrong. Perhaps that was true in her mind. Perhaps she genuinely didn't notice it. But in my opinion, she understood exactly what she was doing. Every time she said it would be unfair to your sister, she was making a decision. And their decisions had consequences. My father simply went quiet. That is what he always did. He'd let my mother and sister run the show and then pretended he had no say. But quiet is still an option. He let it happen. He never stepped in to defend me. So no. He does not receive a pass either. And witnessing the facade crumble, seeing the move from haughty demands to sad apologies, was rather satisfying in its own right. Not because I wanted them to suffer, but because it confirmed what I already knew. They never cared about me. They valued control, looks, and putting my sister on a pedestal. When that crumbled, they had nothing left. That's when I realized something significant. I didn't have to scream at them. I did not need to confront them. I didn't need to exact spectacular payback. All I had to do was live my life, be successful, and refuse to help them. That was sufficient. The irony was almost humorous. They spent years holding me back so she could stay on top. And now she was unemployed, drowning in debt, and being criticized by her entire family. For once, the truth was out. Everyone knew who they truly were. They could no longer hide behind phony smiles and social media posts. And honestly, it felt better than any retaliation I could have devised. I continued hearing minor updates, not because I wanted them, but because family enjoy gossiping. Apparently my parents were rushing to figure out how to pay bills without the money they used to receive from my father's parents. Furthermore, the loans they had taken out to continually bailing out my sister were beginning to come due. Debt collectors were calling, payments were past due, and they had nothing to show for it but her history of failing businesses. My sister continued to refuse to work since she was too good to work for someone else. She had another business concept she wanted to pursue, but no one in the family was prepared to fund her anymore. Even my grandparents on my father's side advised her that if she wanted money, she had to work for it. For years, they sacrificed me on the altar of her ego. They stopped me from shining, made my birthdays smaller, prevented me from competing in events I could have won, and even refused to pay for my schooling because it may make her appear bad. They made her believe that the world revolved around her. And now she was living in the same way, hoping for someone else to cure everything. Except this time, no one was available to do it. What truly surprised me was how my aunt and grandfather reacted. They did more than just support me. They went to bat for me. My aunt tore into my parents. My father's parents cut them off financially and commended me for establishing my own life. And my mother's parents advised me to focus on my happiness. For the first time, I felt completely noticed. My aunt was a rock throughout it all. "You do not owe them anything," she would remind me. And she was correct. She was the one who saved me, believed in me, and gave me hope for the future. And my sister. She kept throwing tiny digs through other people, claiming I was cold or uncaring. They took out loans and opened accounts in my sister's name. Calls were now being directed not only to them, but also to her. The self-proclaimed CEO, who believed she was too good for a real work, couldn't even get a cell phone contract approved. While I was signing mortgage documents, she slept until noon in the same bedroom she had as a teenager. No employment, no money, and no strategy. After all that happened with my parents and sister, I focused solely on myself. I did not want to bring their drama into my adult life. It was not easy at first. Cutting off your own family, even if they treated you poorly, creates this strange, empty gap. But eventually, I began to fill that place with people who genuinely cared. In the end, I didn't want vengeance. Karma handled them. I concentrated on winning at